Tonight, a tariff bomb just detonated in North America's housing supply chain. A timber giant collapsed after weeks of curtailments. The spark, fresh Canada softwood duties turned slim margins to red ink. Builders flinched. Purchasing managers hit pause. Lumber futures spiked, then whipped. Mortgage calculators don't care about politics, but they do care about 2x4 costs. In Washington, microphones found Donald Trump. Stunned? He called it avoidable. Critics say tariffs protect jobs. Homebuyers hear one thing: higher prices, fewer starts, longer waits. This isn't it's a new kind of squeeze. Fewer mills, tighter freight, tariff friction at the border. When supply thins, affordability bends. Tonight we trace the chain: tariff to mill, mill to yard, yard to your front door. A tariff shock hit the one place U.S. homebuilding can't hedge. Incoming Canadian lumber. Overnight, import invoices reflected fresh duties. Margins that were already razor-thin at the mill level flipped negative. Credit lines tightened. A major timber player long strained by curtailments and high operating costs finally buckled. Upstream, mills announced temporary shutdowns and shift cuts. Log yards went quiet. Rail cars were rerouted or held. Brokers yanked offer sheets. Quotes expired in hours, not days. On screens, lumber futures spiked, then whipsawed, signaling panic, not price discovery. Midstream, wholesalers called customers to reprice or delay. Yard managers began rationing top grades. Some distributors demanded cash on delivery to manage risk. The message: we can ship smaller, later and dear. Downstream, builders paused purchase orders and recosted framing packages. A project penciled last week no longer clears today's budget. Permits don't get pulled when materials can't be guaranteed. Mortgage calculators don't adjust for tariff volatility. Buyers simply get fewer options. Politically, microphones found Trump. He labeled the collapse avoidable, framing tariffs as leverage gone wrong. Advocates replied, domestic jobs first. But the causal chain is simple: duty, mill squeeze, supply contraction, cost shock. This wasn't a slow drift. It was a snap, and housing felt it instantly. This fight is old and technical. The U.S. can hit Canadian lumber with two tools: countervailing duties, CVD, claiming government subsidies, and anti-dumping duties, AD, claiming below-cost export. Commerce sets the rates. Customs collects cash deposits at the border based on the producer named on the invoice, with an all-others rate for everyone else. Timing matters. First come preliminary rates, instant cash impact, then final rate. After a year, an administrative review reconciles actuals. Importers may get refunds or bills. Meanwhile, every truckload pays the deposit up front, so working capital gets squeezed long before any refund arrives. Who pays? Technically, the U.S. importer of record. Practically, costs are passed through the chain: wholesaler, yard, builder, buyer, depending on bargaining power and how tight supply is this week. Why it bites housing. Framing is a big materials line item. A duty that adds, say, $20–40 per thousand board feet can ripple into thousands per home when markets are tight. Futures reflect this via a wider basis and jumpy cash quotes. Contracts get shorter, offers expire faster. Key takeaway: you don't need a recession to chill home building. A tariff can do it via cash deposits today, uncertainty tomorrow, and a supply curve that shifts left overnight. Start with the balance sheet. The fallen timber giant was thin on cushion, heavy on fixed costs, and exposed to Canada origin volumes priced off. When preliminary duties hit, cash deposits at the border tied up working capital. Mill curtailments meant lower throughput, but the same debt service, energy, and maintenance. Negative operating leverage did the rest. Timeline: weeks of temporary shift cuts. Vendor terms shortened, customers pushed for 60–90-day price locks the company couldn't honor. Rail and trucking penalties for missed loads piled on. Covenants tripped as EBITDA fell. The revolver moved from flexible to conditional. Suppliers demanded cow dead. Insurance costs ticked up. By the time futures bounced, it didn't matter. Liquidity was gone. Operationally, assets were decent. Modern lines, strong forestry teams. but the model assumed stable cross-border flow. Tariff volatility shattered that assumption. Lessons: diversify sourcing, hedge deposits, build variable cost options, and never let financing depend on policy staying still. Shock travels fastest through logistics. At the mill, curtailments turn weekly schedules into daily coin flips. Maintenance windows expand, kiln queues lengthen. Grade mix skews to what's on hand, not what's ideal. On the rail, manifest trains get reslotted. Priority goes to contracts with penalties. Spot cars vanish. Transit times stretch from 5 days to 9. Then back to 7, too volatile to promise builders anything firm. At the truck dock, carriers switch to surcharge mode. Fuel up, tariff up, hurry up fees up. Drivers refuse partials. Full loads only. In the yard, inventory managers ration SPF studs, substitute species, and push on 2 where 1 was quote. OSB and plywood follow the same script. Panel mills shadow the lumber move. In wholesale, offers shrink to 24-hour validity. SOD terms creep into accounts that used to be net. Futures basis widens. Hedges don't perfectly cover the chaos. Bottom line, schedules wobble, specs drift, costs stack. Projects slip, not by months, by weeks that kill margins. Pressure lands where families live, on the monthly payment. Starts wobble first. If a framing package costs 8 to 12% more, borderline projects fall below hurdle rates. Builders shelve dirt they meant to break this quarter. Permits follow. City counters stay busy, but applications slow as budgets get recut. Lenders ask for fresh takeoffs. Appraisals lag the new materials curve. Deals miss their lock windows. Sentiment cracks at the edge. Sales offices report more think it over weekends. Fewer spec homes released. Incentives creep back. Rate buy-downs, closing credits. Appliance bundles, the quiet tells of stress. Affordability does the brutal math. Afforder 80 lawn materials bump can erase an entire rate buy-down. Buyers trade down square footage, lots or finish levels. Or they pivot to remodel over new build. Regional nuance matters. Entry-level Sunbelt plans are most sensitive. High-end customs absorb more. But the rule holds. When lumber and panels lurch higher, timelines slip, margins thin, and the housing ladder loses rungs. Winners: panel producers, OSB plywood, that shadow lumber up without matching cost inflation. Big box retailers with national buying power and inventory turn discipline. Remodel repair segments. Smaller orders, faster pass-throughs, less permit friction. Logistics holders, rail slots. Reliable carriers, scarcity rents in a pinch. Losers: import-reliant distributors paying cash deposits at the border. Working capital gets trapped. Volume homebuilders with thin land margins and fixed sales prices. Small framers locked into bids they can't reprice mid-project. Apartment developers on tight pro formas. Materials shocks kill debt coverage. Rate-sensitive buyers, a few thousand more in materials erases incentive. In tariff markets, power flows to whoever controls supply. Time and terms, not headlines. The TT timelines. Commerce ITC review calendars. Preliminary final rate shifts. Cash deposit adjustments. Appeals and carve-outs, legal challenges. Company-specific rates. Any temporary exclusion. Mill signals, restart notices. Shift ads. Log supply updates. Curtailments turning into closures. Its futures and basis. Limit moves. Cash versus screen divergence. Widening delivery premiums. Yard inventory. SPF hem fur availability. Grade substitutions. SOD terms creeping wider. Freight flow. Rail car turns. Spot truck rates. Lane surcharges, are transit times stabilizing. Builder data. Starts, permits, cancellations. Incentives. NAHB sentiment and order backlogs. Retail pass-through. Big box weekly price cards versus independent yards. Speed of hikes. Currency, CAD, USD. A weaker loonie can blunt duty pain. Its seasonality, fall build schedules and hurricane repairs pulling panel demand forward. If duty math eases before winter, pain moderates. If not, expect tighter specs, shorter quotes, and slower groundbreakings. Twist: tariffs meant to shield jobs just taxed affordability. Domestic mills gain price power, but home buyers pay the spread. That's not a crash, it's a policy-made scarcity. Takeaways. The T's act now via cash deposits. Refunds if any arrive later. Housing reacts to availability first. Price second. Schedules kill deals. Winners controls supply. Time terms mills panels. Freight. Losers are import-reliant links and fixed-price builders. Relief hinges on review calendars. CAD, USD, and mill restart signal. Your move, tell me below. Did tariffs protect workers or punish buyers? What are you seeing on bids, inventories, and incentives in your city? If this breakdown helped, like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Up next, how builders hedge materials shocks, and what retail prices reveal before futures